Hello everyone, this is Anita, Assistant Professor from Department of Artificial Intelligence and Data Science from Ramco Institute of Technology. Today we are going to see the topics of human resource management. In this second unit, we are going to focus on four important areas: human resource planning, recruitment, selection, and socialization. This human resource plays a major role in the success of any organization. An organization needs employees with the appropriate skills and abilities to perform different jobs and to achieve its objectives. Therefore, the HR department has to systematically plan the organization's manpower recruitments and identify the suitable sources for recruiting the employees, and also selects the right candidates and to help newly appointed employees to adjust into the organization. The major topics covered in this unit are human resources, internal and external sources of human resources, recruitment, selections, and socialization. So, we will begin with the human resource planning, which deals with determining the numbers and types of employees required by the organization. Meaning of human resource planning. So, human resource planning commonly referred to as HRP. It is a process of deciding the how many employees an organization need and what type of employee it requires at the right time. So, in simple terms, HRP means having the right person with the right skill at the right time for the right job. Okay, so the main idea is to identify the organization's presence and also requiring the future manpower and prepare that accordingly. So, for example, consider a hospital that is planning to open a new branch next year. Before opening the branch, the hospital has to determine how many employees will be required. Suppose the estimated requirement is 20 doctors, 40 nurses, 10 laboratory techniques, and 15 administrative staffs. Means once these requirements are identified, the HR department can plan their recruitment process in advance. So this ensures that the required employees are available when the new branch starts functioning. So therefore, HRP helps an organization prepare its workforce according to its future requirements. Okay, so rather than waiting until a manpower shortage occurs, we can plan a future requirements with the HR planning itself. And the next one is the definition and objectives of HRP. So the HRP has been explained by several management scholars. According to Edwin B. Geisler's, manpower planning is the process of forecasting, developing, implementing, and controlling the human resources to ensure that the organization has the right time, right number, right people, and the right place, performing the economical useful jobs. So this definition highlights the importance of forecasting the future manpower requirements and managing the human resources effectively. So according to Bruce P. Coleman, manpower planning is the process of determining the manpower requirements needed to carry out the integrated plan of an organization. So the major objectives of HR planning is to ensure the right number of employee, recruiting the right skills, employees in the right jobs, and meets their future manpower needs to avoid the shortages. So for example, when an organization plans to expand its operations, it may require additional employees with the specific skills. HR planning helps identify these requirements in advance. So similarly, if an organization has more employees than required, HR planning can help the surplus and take the appropriate measures. So thus main objectives of HR planning is to maintain an appropriate balance between the organizational manpower requirements and the available human resources. The purpose of HRP has several important purposes. The first purpose is to forecast HR requirements. This involves the estimating how many employees will be required in the future and what skills they should possess. Accurate forecasting helps the organization prepare its workflows according to its future plans. The second purpose is effective management of change. Organizations are continuously affected by changes in technologies, market conditions, and government policies. HR planning helps the organization identify these changes and prepare employees accordingly. For example, if a company introduces AI-based software, employees may require additional knowledge and skill to work with that new systems. So in a condition, HR can arrange suitable training programs. So next level purpose of is organization's goals. So the organization requires sufficient skilled employees to achieve its objectives. If a company plans to expand its organization's operation, or open a new branches. HR must determine the additional manpower required to support their expansions. So for example, if a company plans to open 2 new branches next year, HR may estimate that 50 additional employees may be required. So similarly, when a company expands into a new city, it may need additional skills and additional employees. So HR management helps the organization for its future workforce requirements and manage its changes effectively. So to ensure the adequate human resources are available to achieve the organization goal, we are using this HR planning. The fourth purpose is promoting the employees. HR planning helps the organization identify the employees who have the required skills, experience, and performance to take up this higher responsibilities. For example, an experienced senior developer who consistently performs well may be promoted to a position of a team leader. In this way, HR planning helps the organization identify its suitable employee for a future position. So, fifth purpose is effective utilization of human resources. This means making proper uses of the employees who are already available in the organization, assigning them according to their skills and compatibilities. For example, instead of immediately hiring a new employee for a particular position, an organization may transfer an experienced employee who are already have the required skills. So this helps the organization ensure the effective utilization of existing human resource and connecting the human resource planning with the organizational planning. So it also helps the organization understand the impact of technological changes on humans and also the jobs. Based on these requirements, HR can determine the appropriate level of recruitment and training and estimates those labor cost. And this also provides the basics for management development programs and also supports the organizational expansion and diversifications. And ultimately, effective HR planning contributes to higher labor productivity and better control of labor cost. The next topic is factors affecting HRP, external factors. The first factor is government policies. The government policies related to labor, industrial relations, and reservation policies can influence the organizational planning and recruitment decisions. Like the second factor is the level of economical development. The economic condition of a country influences the development availability of human resources. It can also affect the future supply of employees. The third factor is the business environment. Changes in the external business environment can influence the volume and type of production. As the production requires change, the organizational human resource requirement may also change. The fourth factor is the level of technology. The technologically direct influence the type of human resources requires an organization. When a new technology are introduced, employees may need new skills. For example, if an organization adopts advanced digital systems, it may need employees with specialized technical skills to understand these new skills. And the final factor is international factors. Organizational operating in an international environment may have the consideration of demanding and supply of the human resources across the different countries. Therefore, these external factors needs to be considered while preparing an effective human resource planning. The next one factors are internal factors. Now, first factor is company policies and strategies. Plan requires related to the expansion, diversifications, or mergers directly influence the number of employees required by an organization. The second factor is human resource policies. These policies related to that salary, training, promotion, and work-life balance can influence the HR planning decisions also. And the third factor is the job analysis. So the job analysis helps the organization identify the skills, qualification, and other requirements needed for each particular jobs. So the fourth factor is the time horizon. HR planning may be based on the short-term or long-term organizational plan. Therefore, the time period considered by the organization also affects its manpower planning also. So the fifth factor is the type and quality of information. The effective HR planning requires the accurate information about the existing employees as well as the organizational future business requirements also. And another factor is production and operation policies. The organizational production plans determine the number of employees required for different activities. So finally, trade unions can also influence the HR planning with an impact on working hours, wages, requirements, and also the employee welfare. So therefore, HR planning needs an consideration both the internal conditions and also the external environment. And so next slide we are going to see the process of HRP. Now we come to the human resource process. The HRP process consists of 7 major steps. The first step is environmental scanning, second is organizational objectives and policies, third is HR demand forecast, fourth is HR supply forecast, and the fifth is HR programming, and the sixth one is plan implementation, and the seventh step is to control and evaluation. The next one is environmental scanning. The first step is the human HR process is environmental scanning. The environmental scanning means studying the external environmental, and also the organization's effects on future manpower requirements. There are several factors that needs to be considered during environmental scanning. The first is economical conditions. That is, change in the economic can influence the business activities and also consider the demand for employees. The second factor is technological changes. When an organization adopts its new technology, the type of skills required from the employee may also changes. Okay, so the third factor is a demographic change. Changes in population, workforce characteristics, and availability of people also can affect the supply of human resources. The fourth factor is government policies and laws. Organization needs to consider changes in the labor laws and other government regulations while planning their workforce. Fifth factor is social changes. Changes in society can also influence employee expectations, work patterns, and also the organizational requirements. For example, if a company decides to adopt AI technology, it may need employees with AI related skills. Okay, so the HR department may therefore plan to recruit AI specialized and provide the training to existing employees. Therefore, environmental scanning helps HR identify changes in advance and also prepares the possible impact on human resources. The second step in the HR process is organizational objectives and policies. The human resource planning should always be based on the goals and policies of the organization. Like in other words, HR cannot plan the workforce separately from the organization's overall business plans. So, for example, if a company plans to open 5 new branches, the organization will require additional employees to operate those branches. Therefore, HR has to identify the number of and type of employees that is we needed to have a manpower planning. So the third step is HR demand forecast. The HR demand forecast means estimating the number and the type of employee that will be required in the future. The organization considered its future activities, expansion plans, production requirements, and also the business objectives while making its forecast. For example, if a suppose hospital expects the number of patients to increase the next year, based on this expected increase, the hospital may estimate that it will require 20 additional nurses. So, demanding the forecast answers an important question: how many employees and what type of employees will the organization need in the future? So, this information becomes the basics for further HR activities like recruitment, selection, and training. The fourth step of the HR process is HR supply forecast. While demanding the forecast, tell us how many people and what type of people we need. So, this supply forecasting focuses on determining how many employees will actually be there or actually be available. The supply can come from two majors, which is the existing employee within the organization or a new employee recruited from outside. The organization first look at its existing workforce. For example, some vacancies may be filled through promotions or an internal transfers. Existing employees who have the required skills and experience can also move from a higher and different positions. If sufficient employees are not available internally, the organization can look outside and recruit a new employees. For example, if suppose organization requires 25 employees for a particular expansion, HR may find that 10 experienced employees available internally can be promoted, while the remaining 15 position needs to be filled through external recruitment. Therefore, HR supply forecasting helps the organization understand the availability of HR from the both internal and external sources. When the demand and supply are identified, HR can determine whether the organization has enough employees or whether additional action is required. The fifth step of HRP process, HR programming. At this stage, an organization compares the forecasted HR demand with the forecasted HR supply. This comparison helps the identify HR gap. If the demand is greater than the available supply, there is a employee shortage. If the available supply is greater than the demand, there is an employee surplus. Once the gap is identified, HR prepares the suitable action plans to balance the demand and supply of employee. These actions may include recruitment, selection, training and development, promotion, transfer, and downsing when there is a surplus of employees. For example, if an organization requires 50 employees but only 40 are available, there is a shortage of 10 employees. HR may plan a recruitment, external recruitment, like filling those positions. On the other hand, if more employees are available than the required, the organization may could consider the transports, deployment, and also other appropriate the measures. So therefore, HR programming converts the result of demand and supply forecast into a specific HR actions. The main objective is to ensure that the right employees are available at the right time and the organization can achieve its objectives effectively. And the next sixth step is the plan implementation. After completing the planning and identifying the HR requirements, the organization has to put up the HR plan into an action. So this includes filling vacancies through the recruitment and selection, providing the training and development, and also carrying out the promotions, transfers, whenever they are requiring the right employee. If the organization has the surplus of employee, appropriate measure has to need to taken to manage the surplus effectively. So this stage is mainly concerned with converting the HR plan into an actual HR activities. So the seventh and final step is control and evaluation. After completing the HR plan, it's necessary to monitor whether the plan is producing the expected results. Organization compares the actual performance with the planned targets. For this purposes, HR may use the budgets, targets, and performance standards. Proper reporting and monitoring the procedures also established. Okay, if there is a difference between the planned results and the actual results, the organization identifies the deviation and takes the corrective actions. For example, if an organization planned to recruit 50 employees within the particular period but also able to recruit only 40, HR needs to identify the reason for the gap and take the suitable actions. So therefore, the implementation ensure that the HR is to put the practice, while control and evaluation ensure the plan is properly monitored and corrected when necessary. Next one is the job analysis and definition and the meaning. So the next topic of this is process of studying and collecting the information related to the organization duties and responsibility of a specific job. In other words, job analysis helps the organization understand what a particular job involves and what is required to perform that job effectively. The two important outcomes of job analysis are job descriptions and job specifications. A job description explains the job itself. It includes the details such as job title and the location, job summary and the duties, and the tools and the equipments that are used in the process of job analysis. Now we move to the next major topic, recruitment. Recruitment is the process of searching for prospective employees and encouraging them to apply for the job in the organization. In terms, recruitment is about finding suitable candidates and attracting them towards the available job opportunities. So, the recruitment begins when an organization identifies a vacancy and decides whether a new employee is required. According to Yoder, recruitment is the process of discovering the sources of manpower recruitment, and also they need to meet the staffing needs of an organization. So there are few important points to understand from their definition. First, recruitment identifies the source of manpower. Second, it should attract the qualified candidates to apply for the available position. Third, it tries to ensure an adequate number of applicants. Finally, recruitment provides a suitable pool of candidates where the organization can carry out the selection process. It is important to understand the recruitment itself is not the process of choosing the final employee. So now let us discuss about the internal sources of recruitment. Okay, So the internal recruitment means filling a vacancy by considering employees who are already working in the organization. The first internal sources is promotions. The promotion means moving an employee from lower position to a higher position. So it involves greater responsibilities. For example, an experienced employee working as a senior executive may be promoted to a managerial position based on their performance. And the next source is transfer. Transfer means moving an employee from one job to another job at the same level. A transfer may involve as changes in duties or locations, but generally there is no change in safety level. Another internal sources is job posting. In this method, available vacancies are announced internally through notice boards, emails, and other organizations' websites. So the final source shown here is employee referral. The basic idea behind the employee referral is that existing employee may know suitable people who have the required skills. Therefore, internal recruitment allows an organization to make use of its existing employees and their capabilities before looking outside the organization. Next one is the external sources of recruitment. The external recruitment means looking for candidates outside the organization. The organization generally uses the external sources when suitable employees are not available internally. So the external recruitment is also particularly useful for organization expanding or requiring number of employees longer than the usual. The first external source is advertisement, and advertisement is one of the most common methods of external resources. The advertisement normally provides information about the job specifications and qualifications and the skills. This helps attracts a large number of potential applicants. And the second one is direct recruitment. It's also known as the factory gate recruitment. In this method, a notice board and all the vacancies list are displayed in the notice boards and also the factory gate. This method is mainly used for the recruiting blue collar and technical workers. The third force is employment exchanges. So, employment exchanges are recruitment agencies that are where the organization notify their vacancies and find the candidates. So, they can be used to recruit workers ranging from unskilled to skilled categories. Therefore, these external sources helps the organization reach candidates who are not already part of the organization. So, the next slide is the external sources of recruitment is parts 2. So, there are several other external sources. The first one is employment agencies. The employment agency may be private, public, or government organization. They maintain databases of qualified candidates and help the organization identify suitable people for a available position. So the next source is professional associations. So the professional association can help organization recruit professional techniques and managerial employees. They are particularly useful when organizations are looking for specified candidates like a middle level or a top level position. And the next one is campus recruitment. So in this campus recruitment, organization approaches the colleges and the university for the fresh candidates. So the final source of this slide is word of mouth advertisement, where the information about a job vacancy is communicated through a personal recommendations and the contacts. So therefore, organizations have several external recruitments available and the choice of source depends on the type of job and the number of employees required for a particular skills and qualifications. So now we move to the next major topic, selection. Selection is the process of examining applicant with the regard of suitability for a particular job and choosing the most suitable candidate from among them. Recruitment and selection are closely related, but they have the different purposes. Recruitment is mainly concerned with attracting the candidates, where selection concerned with choosing the most suitable candidate. According to Dale Yoder, a selection is the process through which the candidates are divided into two groups: those who are offered employment, those who are not. The selection process involves the evaluating the candidates based on the recruitment of the jobs. The organization may consider their qualification skills and the experience and the suitability for the position. The main purpose is to identify a candidate who can perform the job effectively and meet the requirements of the organization. And the next one is the type of interview. The that interview is a conversation between an interviewer and an interview. Uh, its purpose is to assess the candidate's potential and suitability for a particular job. There are different types of interviews. First type is informal. and the second type is formal. The first type, it may used when there is a urgent requirement to recruit a employee, and the second type is used when the time and place are finally fixed, and the interviewers generally use the questions prepared in advance. The third one is a planned interview. It is prepared, planned and decided before the interview take place. The fourth one is the patterned interview. It is a highly structured one. It is usually in the same order. This proves the greater consistency when comparing different candidates. The fifth step is a non-directive interview. This gives the minimal interruptions and mainly listens to the candidate. So the type of interview part 2, we can continue with the different type of interview. The next type is the depth interview. It is examines the candidate's background, attitude and motivations behind the previous years. And the next one is the stress interview. The candidate placed in a pressure situation such as emotional stability, patience, decision making ability. And the another type is the group interview. In a group interview, several candidates are interviewed together and it helps the leadership and the teamwork qualifications. And the final step is the panel interview. Panel interview is conducted by 2 or more interviewer, and it is a managerial position. For it, they can evaluate the candidate from different perspectives. Socialization and induction placement. So the final topic in this unit is socialization, which includes the placement and induction. Placement requires the actual posting of a selected candidate to a specific job with a set of responsibilities and particular rank. In other words, after the selection process is completed, the employee has to be assigned to a appropriate solutions and positions. And the proper placement is important because an effective placement can improve the employee morale. Okay, so it can help reduce employee turnover and absenteeism. The proper placement may also contribute to reducing the accident rates. So another important benefit is to help avoid a misfit between the candidates and the job. So when an employee are properly placed, they can perform their responsibility more effectively. So the next part is a socialization and its inductions. So the induction process is the welcoming a new employee and providing the basic information required for the employee to settle into an organization. When a person joins a new organization, there may be some uncertainty about the workplace policies, timing, and facilities. An effective induction program helps to reduce this initial anxiety, allows the employees to adjust to the new environment, and induction also helps to build the employees' confidence and contributions to reduce the turnovers and absenteeism. So, with this, we have covered human resource planning, job analysis, recruitment, and the source of recruitment selection process. So, thank you for listening. Thank you.